Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are going to take the famous psychology of a market cycle chart and we are going to overlay this on top of Micron, SanDisk, Seagate, Western Digital, and even PLTR chart. Now, before we jump into the technicals, I want you to take a good look at this chart because if you've been investing for a while, you probably haven't seen too many stocks that end in a euphoric move like this, go into complacency, come down all the way into a depression phase and then go back into a rally mode. And it's because this is not a psychology of a stock. This is a psychology of a market cycle, which means it's most likely a group of cyclical stocks that are doing the same exact thing, but the price action has to end in euphoria before we start trending downwards. So with that said, let's jump onto the charts. And before we go into the AI charts that I listed before, I want you to take a good look at this NASDAQ chart where the bubble popped in the 2000s. We did the same exact price action. We ended this in euphoria. We came down, we went into complacency, we came down and went into anxiety, denial, panic, and so on. Eventually, down the road, many years later, we started to turn around and finally broke out above the all-time highs again, and it took over a decade for the market to get back to that. Now, if we overlap this with this semiconductor ETF, we will probably see a very similar price action right now because semiconductor ETF is going through the AI bubble scenario, if you want to believe that this is an AI bubble, versus back in the day, NASDAQ were going through the internet bubble. Now that has officially popped, so we can say that it was an internet bubble. Maybe I should just call it the AI bull run for now because we're still running. But let's go to the weekly chart and see if we can draw parallels to this with the psychology of the market cycle chart. So in my opinion, I think we have had our euphoria move. We have pushed up high enough on this semiconductor ETF that we pulled back in a crash-like manner and we came down about 29%. So that is, in my opinion, a pop on this euphoria move. And now we're going through this complacency zone where we might just chop around here. Maybe we go sideways, come down, pull liquidity, come back up again, and then eventually come down and continue lower. And that's how this plays out over the next year or two. This is not the only ticker that is doing the same exact thing. I mentioned I was going to go over Micron, so let's take a look at Micron right now. We had this massive, powerful move to the upside. I think we ended our euphoria move at 1255, and then again we pulled back in this crash-like manner. I think, yeah, about 41% move on the downside. We bounced on the 21-week exponential moving average, and we are probably doing the same exact thing. We're going sideways until this bubble finally pops and we go into the more of anxiety and panic mode. We are in complacency right now, in my opinion, because I think people will still want to believe that we'll go another leg higher, but I think that is done. Same thing we can do on SanDisk, similar move. We had this euphoric move, pulled back into, I think, about 40% again. Oh, 56% pullback. So 56% pullback on this. We're going sideways now, and then we'll eventually come down. And before I move on to the next tickers, let's take a look at ARK Invest ETF. Back in the day in 2021, ARK Invest did the same exact thing. We had this massive move to the upside. A lot of liquidity came in. Everybody was bullish. Cathie Woods was all over media. And then what happened? We had this pullback from the peak of about 33%. We went sideways after that. And if you notice, we started this pullback. I'm going to just take the date from this candle. This was March, and it took us till November before we finally came down and went into the anxiety, denial, panic, and then the anger phase. And notice the cycle is trying to make its way back up now. Now, I don't know if we're going to go all the way back up to new all-time highs. So far, the chart has done exactly what we were talking about on the psychology of a market cycle. The euphoric move up, drop out of nowhere, complacency, anxiety, denial, panic, capitulation, and then anger. And lastly, depression. So I'm going to move this out for a second here. Again, let's go to WDC, which is Western Digital. This is another stock that pulled in a lot of liquidity, made a massive move, euphoric upside towards $800, came back into the complacency mode now. I think we might even bounce here, and then eventually collapse again. I don't know how weak is WDC and Seagate compared to Micron and SanDisk. Only time will tell, but let's also take a look at Seagate here. Same exact pattern. There's literally no difference between all 3, 4, 5 of these charts that I'm showing you. We end on this euphoria and then collapse again. And as I observe this type of price action on these memory and chip makers, I also noticed that the nuclear plays have already gone through the entire cycle of this already. So we had this euphoria move on OKLO. We came down and we didn't have enough strength to push it back up even 50%. The dead cat bounce was very weak, and we are continuing to go lower. Same thing with SMR, another stock that ended in euphoria. And in this case, I can say that maybe this was this euphoric end and this was just the dead cat bounce that kind of got a little too out of hand and wicked above the previous all-time highs. But as you can see, over time we have continued to go lower, and we are gonna keep crashing because there are no revenue. I made a video on OKLO. They're not in place to be a profitable company for many more years to come. In that time frame, a lot can change. With interest rates going up, we might be in a whole different environment in about a year or two. So we'll just have to see where this all lands. But here's my biggest fear regarding all of these stocks. When you look at ARK Invest back in 2021, by the time the bubble popped, SPY was not ready to come down with it. It took SPY 11 months after the ARK Invest bubble popped before it could start coming down with it. In fact, I created this overlapping chart on Claude to show you what I mean by that. RKK bubble popped in February of 2021. After that, SPY gave another 20% move in 11-month time frame before the bubble finally popped. And this is how this trend usually starts. All the weak stocks collapse first that are related to the theme. In this case, it's AI. So all the AI stocks, for example, the nuclear plays and then the memories and chips and whatnot, so they are seeing the weakness first because they have had the most euphoric moves. And once those deflate, only then the market starts shifting and the weakness shows up on the larger cap stocks, for example, Nvidia and AMD and whatnot. So only time will tell. But for now, I'm watching these stocks very closely because it is crucial to understand where the money is moving towards, which stocks are deflating. Because if this is the AI bubble, nobody's going to come to my door and tell me that the bubble is about to pop, right? We got to watch out for all of these signs. You got to compare it to previous market cycles and just be aware. And if you have been watching my channel for a month or two, you already know that I'm expecting SPY to have a weak September. Maybe I'm wrong there. Maybe the weakness shows up in October, November, or December. But anytime in next 3 to 4 months, I think we'll see the midterm correction that we have seen in the last 3 midterms, and market will pull back maybe 10, 15, 20%. And then I'm expecting a rally back to new all-time highs. And after that, I think we are headed towards a full-on pullback in the indices. I think that will give us enough time for the market to distribute on highs. And basically what I'm expecting is a pullback, and this is my best case scenario, right? A pullback below the previous low on SPY, go back up to all-time highs in Q1 2027, and we just chop around here on all-time highs, distribute all over for 3, 4, 5 months, and then eventually we start to make our way down. And that is the base case scenario that I am watching for. Now, I'm not a mega bull or a mega bear. This is just something that I'm watching due to fundamentals, the cracks that I'm seeing in the market. But if market decides to go a different direction, I will change my thesis. I am still ready to invest my money as we head into the midterm correction. So don't think that I'm going full on bear. Plan as you wish. I'm not selling any of my long-term holdings, but in short terms, if you can predict the next leg up or down, you can make a lot of money very, very quickly. And that is what my channel is all about. So with that being said, I hope this was a valuable video for you. Hope this gives you a new way of looking at the memory and AI stocks. And with that being said, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I will catch you on the next one. Thank you so much for watching.